You know, after Joshua was first diagnosed with leukemia, the doctors started to tell us some of the stuff that we could expect over the next 3.5 years. They told us when a kid takes chemotherapy, they can react in all different kinds of ways. You can never really pinpoint exactly what would happen. It makes some of them sick, others it doesn't. Some of them it makes irritable, others it doesn't. And sometimes it makes them lose their hair. Now, this was a thing for us because Joshua had the coolest hair. Ever since he was little, he just had this almost white blonde hair that sort of fell down over his eyes and over his ears. I mean, it was the kind of haircut that you would pay hundreds of dollars to have someone give you, and he just had it naturally where he would kind of brush it out of his face. And so the thought that he was going to lose his hair was really, really hard for us. And we actually prayed and we asked the Lord, you know, we know we're in it, we're in the cancer thing here, but if there's any way that you could just spare Joshua's hair, that would be a good thing for us. Because we knew it would be a very emotional thing to see it go. So I remember one day we were in the hospital and had been there for several days. And I came walking in because Jana was with Joshua while I went to work. And I came walking in, and I remember that Joshua was eating mac and cheese or a grilled cheese sandwich or soup or something like that. He did a lot of eating during those days because it was one of the only things that made him feel better. And I remember that as he was eating, he was pulling at his mouth, like with his tongue out. He was pulling on it like there was something there. And so Janet and I looked and we watched him, and with every bite he would do that, where he would sort of grab at his tongue and he would pull. And we tried to figure out what he was doing, and then it sort of came to us all at once together. It's hair. He's got hair in his food because his hair had started to fall out. So we cried a little bit in that moment because we knew his hair was going, but then we made the decision, you know what? If anybody's going to take, and anything is going to take our son's hair from us, it's going to be us. And so we went for the preemptive strike. We called the hospital barber and asked her to come up and told her to take the guard off and just go. And she did, and she shaved his head clean. And much to our surprise, a little kid with a bald head is actually pretty cute. But here's the thing, after that point, there was no doubt that Joshua had some disease and probably cancer. Because not only did he have the bald head, he had the look of someone who was going through chemotherapy. The swollen cheeks and the swollen neck and the faded complexion. Along with the bald head, it was just completely obvious to anybody that we came in contact with that this kid has a very, very serious disease. And so in some ways, the bald head and his look, it just became a mark of identity for us. For Joshua, he became the cancer kid. That's what everybody knew him as. He's the little boy that has cancer. And for us, well, we became those people, the ones who have the kid with cancer. That's who we were. It didn't matter where we went, what we did for a living, whatever. The way that we were identified was the parents of the kid with cancer. Now that's a hard thing. It was a hard thing for us. And it's a hard thing for anybody when their marks of self-identity get shifted into something that they're uncomfortable with. Because the way that we identify ourselves, that's a very important thing to us. I mean, think about the way that you introduce yourself to someone. You meet someone new for the first time, and then you have the obligatory handshake. And what's the first question? The very first question that you ask. What do you do? You know what you're doing there? You're looking for a way to identify that new person. You're looking for a way to understand. You're trying to peg the essence of who they are so that when you think about them, you know what to think about. For us, it was cancer. And here's the thing about pain and difficulty. Pain and difficulty have a way of stripping you of your marks of identity. There are things that we are very comfortable with being identified. Like if you have a really, really great job, it's your dream job and it has incredible pay and benefits and makes you feel very important. Well, you love being defined by that. But what about when that job goes away? Or maybe if it's a relationship, you love that you're in a relationship with this person because you feel important when you're next to him or her, and you feel beautiful because you're next to him or her. But what about when that relationship ends and you lose that mark of self-identity? Or maybe it's just money and status, that you love being identified by the size of the home, by the type of car, by where you eat your meals, and then suddenly there's a downturn in the economy and you can't be identified by that anymore. And that mark of self-identity goes away. Who are you then? See, this is what pain and difficulty do, is that they strip us of our marks of self-identity. And on the back end of that, you just feel empty. You feel impoverished and lacking somehow, because you don't know who you are anymore. You don't know who you are if you don't have that job, or you don't have that person, or you don't have that car or house, or whatever it is. You don't know who you are anymore because pain has stripped you of your self-identity. But here is where the redemptive purposes of God actually step in, because that stripping of identity is not a bad thing. Well, it feels bad. It feels really bad because you feel lost and hopeless and purposeless in the world. But do you know what the Lord does when those marks of identity are stripped away from you? That is the prime territory for the Lord to step in and tell you who you really are. And the way that God wants to identify you is not by some external mark, some status symbol like a house or a car or a bank account or even a relationship, as dear as that relationship might be. When you find yourself impoverished in identity, that is the moment when the Lord can step in and fill you up and tell you who you really are. And the identity that the Lord wants to firmly indwell in you, the one that He wants to establish you in and remind you of day after day after day, is an identity that cannot be taken away with the loss of a job, with the loss of a spouse or a relationship, with the downturn in economy, with the loss of a house, or anything else. Because to God, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, what your occupation is, how healthy you are or how healthy you're not, at the core, you are a child.